So picture this. You're standing right in the middle of the campus. You are surrounded by like 40,000 of your peers.
Yeah, just a massive crowd.
Exactly. But somehow, you've never felt more invisible. It's this really jarring paradox.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
mean, you have backpacks brushing past you. You're hearing snippets of a dozen different conversations just floating in the air. The sheer volume of humanity is almost overwhelming.
Right, it's a lot to process.
It is. But standing right there, literally in the middle of that crowd, the isolation is just absolute.
Yeah, that's such a common experience.
So today, we are doing a deep dive into our sources to really look at the neurobiology of modern loneliness among young adults.
Which is such a critical topic right now.
It really is. But more importantly, we're looking at the antidote. We are going to explore how something as incredibly simple as low-barrier group sports, specifically recreational running clubs, holds the unexpected neurological and, well, sociological keys to hacking our own biology.
Hacking it to build genuine community, yeah.
Exactly. Entirely without the exhausting pressure of, performing socially.
Right. And it's an essential shift in how we view that whole university experience.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we carry this cultural image of the campus as this vibrant tapestry of instant lifelong connection.
Oh, totally. Best years of your life, right?
Exactly. That's the cliche. But the reality on the ground is that social isolation has quietly become this massive public health crisis.
Yeah. It's pretty dark when you look at the data.
It is. And to understand why something as simple as a running club is the antidote, we really have to recognize that loneliness in this context, it isn't just a lack of physical people around you.
Right.
It is an entirely subjective state of mind. It manifests as this persistent, heavy sense of just being unseen.
Which has to take a huge toll mentally.
Oh, it does. It breeds a very specific type of imposter syndrome. It's like this internal voice constantly whispering that, everyone else has figured out their place except you.
Wow, yeah. And that internal withdrawal has a really fascinating physical equivalent in the sources.
Oh, the solitude trap.
Yes. Okay, let's unpack this because when a student internalizes that voice, the sources point to this behavioral pattern. They call it the solitude trap.
Right, where they start pulling away.
Exactly. Feeling all this intense social friction, they begin to withdraw further into their dorm rooms, hiding behind noise-canceling headphones.
Oh, yeah, the headphones are like a universal shield now.
They really are. And they mistake that solitude for safety. But neurologically speaking, every time they retreat, they are literally deepening the neural pathways of loneliness in the brain.
Yeah, it's a physical change.
I mean, they're reinforcing a structural habit of isolation.
Well, because the brain is highly neuroplastic.
Right.
It adapts to the environment you give it.
Meaning it literally changes its wiring.
Exactly. When you isolate yourself, your brain interprets that lack of a tribe as a state of chronic vulnerability.
Like you're in danger.
Yes.
Hmm.
Evolutionarily speaking, being separated from the group meant you were probably going to be eaten. So the brain ramps up its threat detection. It becomes hypervigilant to social rejection. You start perceiving neutral faces as hostile and ambiguous social interactions as direct threats.
So someone just looking at you on campus feels like an attack.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
That heightened state of anxiety makes putting yourself out there feel not just uncomfortable, but fundamentally unsafe.
That mental state, it really reminds me of standing in a packed subway car during rush hour.
Oh, that's a great comparison.
Right. You are jammed in there, physically bumping shoulders with the person next to you. You're breathing the exact same recycled air.
Yeah, no personal space at all.
None. You are physically as close to other human beings as you can possibly be, yet you are totally, completely isolated in your own little bubble.
Right, no one makes eye contact.
Exactly. Everyone's just staring at their screens. You're surrounded by bodies, but there is zero connection.
Yeah, you're alone in a crowd.
And that subway car is exactly what the modern university campus feels like for so many students. And what's crazy is when the mind retreats into that isolated subway car, the body just shuts down right alongside it.
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, there is a highly destructive biological loop between loneliness and physical inactivity.
They feed into each other, right?
They do. The research shows that lonelier individuals tend to be significantly less physically active, which, it makes sense.
Right, because if you're anxious, you're not going to the gym.
Exactly. When you are in that hypervigilant, isolated state, your motivation to expend energy just plummets. Your body is essentially mimicking a hibernation state in response to that social threat.
That's wild. Hibernation.
Yeah, but that physical inactivity actively alters your brain chemistry. When you stop moving, your baseline levels of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, they drop.
And BDNF is the good stuff.
Right. It's crucial for brain health.
Yeah.
And at the same time, cortisol levels remain chronically elevated because that stress response has no physical outlet.
So the inactivity is literally keeping the brain trapped in a state of chemical stress.
Yes, it actually exacerbates the symptoms of depression and anxiety, whereas regular physical activity is scientifically proven to clear those inflammatory markers.
Oh, so moving actually cleans up the brain.
Exactly. It protects against cognitive decline. Moving the body actively, chemically, fights the biological effects of loneliness.
But, I mean, the architecture of modern campus life makes breaking that loop incredibly difficult.
Oh, it's designed terribly for this.
Right. Just look at the spaces we've built. You have massive lecture halls where a student is just, a number in a sea of 400 faces.
Yeah, there's no intimacy there.
None. And then you have these impersonal online learning platforms where the only interaction is like a discussion board post at midnight.
Right. I agree with your point, Jessica.
Exactly. It's so forced. And then you layer on the curated perfectionism of social media. It is an environment almost perfectly designed to maximize that subjective feeling of loneliness.
You're overstimulated but underconnected.
Perfectly said. And the standard advice we give to fix this usually completely ignores that cognitive load.
Right. The classic, just go join a club advice.
Yes. People just say, put yourself out there. But the traditional avenues for socialization, they're deeply flawed.
They really are.
Campus mixers or casual parties carry their own invisible barriers. They are loaded with unspoken social codes, the music is always too loud, and there is this immense crushing pressure to perform sociability.
Yeah, you have to be witty, engaging, perfectly effortless.
Exactly. It requires a massive reserve of social capital that a lonely student simply does not have.
You're asking someone whose amygdala is already screaming threat to walk into an unpredictable, high-stakes social environment.
Right. It's an impossible ask, and the alternatives aren't much better. Formal sports teams demand tryouts, pre-existing athletic prowess, and this fiercely competitive spirit.
Yeah, if you didn't play in high school, you're out.
Exactly. If you aren't already a superstar athlete with peak cardiovascular health, that door is slammed in your face. For a student already deep in that solitude trap, these traditional options don't feel like doors to a new community. They feel like 10-foot brick walls.
Which is why our sources highlight low-barrier sports at such a critical intervention.
Yes, and here's where it gets really interesting. The requirements for something like a recreational running club are just radically different.
There are absolutely no tryouts.
None. There's no prior experience necessary. You just need a pair of sneakers.
Right. The invitation is simply, just show up, we will wait for you, no one gets left behind.
Which is so refreshing.
It is. For someone who has convinced themselves they are bad at making friends or, not an athlete, that low-stakes entry point completely shifts the paradigm.
And the term the sources use to describe the biological payoff of this is collective effervescence.
Such a great phrase.
It is, but it sounds more like a chemical reaction than a social one. What exactly is happening in the body during that state?
Well, it is entirely a chemical reaction. It's deeply rooted in our autonomic nervous system.
Okay, how so?
So when students run together, their breathing and their footsteps unconsciously begin to align. They fall into this state of rhythmic physical synchrony.
Oh, like they just naturally match pace.
Exactly. And the vagus nerve, which acts as this main communication highway between the body and the brain, it registers this shared, synchronized movement.
Okay.
It interprets that physical alignment as a really powerful signal of safety and belonging.
Wait, so by mirroring someone's physical rhythm, you are signaling to your own nervous system that you are safe with them before you've even spoken a single word.
That is exactly the mechanism.
Wow.
Yeah, when the vagus nerve signals safety, it downregulates the amygdala, meaning it turns off that hypervigilant threat response we talked about earlier.
So the alarm bells stop ringing.
Right. And simultaneously, this physical synchronization triggers a massive release of oxytocin.
The bonding hormone.
Right, we often hear it called that. But in this context, it acts as a neuromodulator that fosters trust and a kind of tribal connection.
So it's basically chemical glue.
Yeah, and it completely bypasses the intellectual defenses that we put up in standard social settings.
Oh, I see.
Like when you go to a party, your intellectual defenses are on high alert, right? Scanning for social threats. But when you're running in sync,
Yeah.
the biology overrides the anxiety.
That biological override perfectly explains why this is such a sanctuary for introverts or just anyone dealing with social burnout.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the focus of the group isn't on conversation, it's on the shared task of running.
There's a shared purpose.
Right. There are no awkward silences to fill because the rhythm of the footsteps and, the heavy breathing, it provides this comfortable background track.
Yeah, it fills a void.
Exactly. If you want to run in total silence, you can. But if you do want to talk, the conversation flows organically, shoulder to shoulder, rather than face to face.
And that shoulder-to-shoulder aspect is huge. It removes the spotlight effect.
Which is so intimidating usually.
Right. You aren't being evaluated on your conversational skills, and you don't have to maintain intense eye contact.
Which can be really uncomfortable.
Highly dysregulating for someone with social anxiety, yeah. You are simply coexisting in a shared physical effort, anchored by the rhythm of the group.
I mean, I'm looking at the science and it makes total sense. But playing devil's advocate here, practically speaking, if I am already severely socially burnt out,
Right.
showing up to a park with 50 strangers still sounds terrifying. A spike in oxytocin doesn't magically happen while you're standing in your room agonizing over whether to walk out your front door.
That's a very fair point.
So how does a club actually overcome that initial wall of anxiety?
Well, the truth is, the first time is always going to trigger an anxiety response. You can't avoid that completely.
Okay.
But the secret ingredient that turns that terrifying first step into lasting comfort is the recurring structure of the club.
Ah, the routine.
Exactly. It relies on the neuroplasticity of the brain to dismantle anxiety through repetition. A weekly running club provides a highly structured, entirely predictable social interaction.
And predictability is key.
Right, because when you are dealing with social anxiety, the unpredictable is your worst enemy. But here you know exactly what time it is, where it is, and what the expectations are.
It's essentially exposure therapy disguised as a 5K.
In behavioral terms, it functions very similarly. Each week, you return to the same faces in a familiar, low-pressure setting.
Right.
And with every positive, predictable interaction, the brain literally rewires itself, according to Hebb's law.
Remind me, that's neurons firing together.
Yes, neurons that fire together wire together. The brain starts associating social interaction with the pain of rejection, and it begins to wire it to the safety of the synchronized group.
Wow. And the specific type of social bond this environment creates is really interesting too. It fosters what sociologists call weak ties.
Right, weak ties are crucial.
They really are. Our society puts so much immense pressure on finding a best friend or like a romantic partner, the strong ties.
Everything's about finding your person.
Exactly. But weak ties are those casual acquaintanceships. It's the people you just nod to on the trail or the ones you run a few miles with every Tuesday.
And what's fascinating here is they are paradoxically crucial for our psychological well-being.
Even though they aren't deep relationships.
Right, because they provide a sense of belonging without the emotional exhaustion of deep intimacy.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
You just show up, someone say, hey, good to see you again, and your brain registers that you exist in a community without demanding any heavy emotional lifting in return.
I feel like mortar in a brick building is the best way to visualize this.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Yeah, think about it. Your strong ties, your family, your closest friends, those are the giant, heavy foundational stones.
Right.
You absolutely need them to build a life. But mortar doesn't hold the heavy structural weight. The bricks do that. What the mortar does is absorb the daily thermal expansion, the shifts, the micro stresses.
That provides the flexibility.
Exactly. Without those weak ties absorbing the daily friction of life, the heavy foundational stones actually crack under the pressure. You need that mortar to hold the entire structure of your daily life together.
That is a perfect way to put it.
You just show up to the run, you get greeted, and you are reminded that you matter to the structure of the group.
Right. It is the supportive mortar of daily life. And that sense of mattering, it doesn't just magically appear simply because people happen to be running in the same direction.
Right, it takes effort.
It requires a very deliberate culture cultivated by the organizers. A competitive racing culture would just reintroduce the social hierarchy and that threat response we are trying to avoid.
Right, which is why the sources point out that the magic of these low-barrier clubs is that they prioritize culture over performance every single time.
Yes, culture is everything here.
They use specific operational choices to ensure this, like strict no-drop policies, and they celebrate every milestone with equal enthusiasm.
Which is so important.
It is. Someone running their very first continuous mile gets the exact same cheers as someone finishing a marathon.
Yeah, and by democratizing achievement like that, they remove the conditions usually attached to social acceptance.
It's unconditional belonging.
Exactly. The no-drop policy ensures that whether you are running a 6-minute mile or, a 15-minute mile, you are never running alone.
Someone is always there.
Right. The faster runners loop back, or there are designated sweepers at the back. It guarantees the biological safety signal we talked about. The nervous system knows the tribe will not abandon it.
That culture of inclusion extends into the post-run rituals, too. Organizers intentionally build in time for socialization afterward.
Yeah, the run is just the beginning.
Right. Maybe it's a planned route that ends at a local coffee shop, or they all do a guided stretch together on the grass. The run acts as the physical icebreaker. The post-run ritual is where the weak ties solidify into that protective mortar.
And because the ingredients are so simple, sneakers, a meeting spot, and a commitment to not leaving anyone behind, the model is incredibly replicable.
So what does this all mean?
Well, it means it's entirely decentralized and grassroots. You don't need a university grant, you don't need bureaucratic approval, or a multi-million-dollar athletic facility.
You just need a park.
Exactly. These clubs can spring up on a campus green, a local park, or just a residential sidewalk.
And the barrier to entry is so low, and the psychological payoff, that vagus nerve regulation and that hit of oxytocin is so high that they just grow organically.
Yeah, they build their own momentum.
Right. One lonely student invites a roommate who has also been feeling isolated. That roommate invites someone from a study group. Word of mouth becomes the engine because people are inherently starving for exactly this kind of low-pressure connection.
They really are. They become these self-sustaining ecosystems of encouragement.
It's amazing.
It is. It's returning to our most basic biological roots to solve a very modern, digitally induced problem.
Absolutely. So
Right.
if you are sitting there right now, feeling the weight of that isolation, maybe mistaking your solitude for safety and wondering why you still feel so unseen, the science here offers a very clear path forward.
A very accessible path.
Yes, you do not need to be a superstar athlete, you do not need to be the wittiest person in the room, and you don't need to fundamentally change who you are to find a place.
Nope.
You just need to show up. You can shed that crushing weight of perfectionism, let the rhythm of the group carry you, and slowly rebuild that social confidence by letting your nervous system do the heavy lifting. One step, one run, one group.
That's really all it takes.
The path to belonging doesn't require a giant leap. It literally begins with a single shared stride.
This leaves us with a really fascinating question to consider beyond just physical fitness.
Oh, what's that?
Well, if physically synchronizing our movements, like simply aligning our footsteps and our breath, can so powerfully sync our minds, downregulate our threat responses, and alleviate the deep pain of loneliness, how else might we apply this concept of physical synchronization to other areas of our lives? Think about our hyper-digital work environments or the family dynamics at home. How can we use shared physical tasks to bridge the emotional gaps that are constantly being created by all these screens?
Oh, wow. Finding new ways to be the mortar for each other. I love that. Well, that is our deep dive for today. As you head back out into the crowd, stay active, stay connected, and whatever you do, remember, no one has to navigate this journey alone. See you next time.